Death is an inevitable part of human existence. Whether we are young or old, healthy or sick, death is always lurking around the corner. But what does Stoicism teach us about how to face death? If you're new here, welcome to this channel, where we discuss the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy and how it can help us live better and more meaningful lives. Today, we will explore how Stoicism teaches us to face death with calm acceptance and what that means for us as humans. In ancient Greece and Rome, there was a school of thought called Stoicism, founded by Zeno of Citium around 300 BC. Stoicism is a philosophy that teaches us how to live a virtuous and happy life by following nature and living in harmony with the universe. One of the key aspects of Stoic philosophy is their approach to death. For Stoics, death is not something to be feared or avoided, but rather something to be accepted calmly and serenely. Now you might be thinking, wait a second, aren't Stoics supposed to be happy all the time? How can they be happy about something as negative as death? Well, let me explain. First, we need to understand what Stoicism teaches about death itself. For Stoics, death is not an event, but a process. It is a natural part of the cycle of life and should not be seen as something unnatural or evil. In fact, death is seen as something to be embraced, as it is the ultimate return to the cosmos from which we came. This doesn't mean that Stoics didn't grieve the loss of loved ones. Rather, they understood that death was a natural process and that their loved ones would one day return to the cosmos. One of the most famous Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, who was the emperor of Rome, wrote in his personal journal, "When someone is about to die, think about all the times you've already died, all the times that your life could have ended but didn't." He was reminding himself that he had already been granted more time than he could have ever expected, and that each day was a bonus. Similarly, Seneca, another prominent Stoic philosopher, said, "All the time we have is borrowed from death." This quote highlights the preciousness of time and the need to use it wisely. For Seneca, death was always looming in the background, and that realization made him appreciate every moment of his life. Marcus Aurelius also wrote, "You could stop living right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Stop expecting the future to be any different from the past. If everything you do is as if it were your last action, you will stop wasting time." This passage shows that for Stoics, the awareness of death should inform every aspect of our lives. It should influence our actions, our speech, and our thoughts. By constantly being aware of our mortality, we can avoid wasting time on things that don't matter. But why is it important to accept death calmly? What is so wrong with being afraid of death? According to Stoics, fear of death stems from our belief that death is something bad. We fear what we don't understand, and death is often seen as something mysterious and unknown. However, Stoicism encourages us to view death as a natural process that we cannot control. By trying to avoid death or fight against it, we only cause ourselves unnecessary suffering. Epicurus, a Stoic philosopher, said, "Death, which is the end of life, is not dreadful. It is the end of some things and the beginning of others." This quote highlights the cyclical nature of life and death. Death is not the end, but a transition to a different state of being. So how can we learn to accept death calmly? The first step is to understand that death is a natural process that we cannot control. It is not something to be feared or avoided. By accepting death as a part of life, we can free ourselves from the constant anxiety and worry that it causes. Second, we need to focus on what we can control, our thoughts, actions, and reactions. By concentrating on the things we can control, we can stop worrying about the things we can't. This is a central tenet of Stoicism, and it can help us navigate any situation, not just those involving death. Third, we should try to live each day to the fullest, appreciating the time we have and making the most of every opportunity. By living a life that is true to our values and that makes us happy, we can prepare ourselves for whatever comes next. By following these steps, we can learn to accept death calmly and serenely, just as the Stoics did. But why should we care about accepting death calmly? What is the benefit of doing so? To answer this question, we need to look at how fear of death affects our lives. Fear of death can cause us to make decisions based on what we think might happen after we die. For example, it may cause us to cling tightly to our jobs, our relationships, and our possessions, even if they make us unhappy. We may also avoid taking risks or pursuing our dreams because we are afraid of what might happen if we fail. This fear-based way of living is not only unhealthy, but it also prevents us from living a life that is true to ourselves. By accepting death calmly, we can free ourselves from the shackles of fear and start living a life that is based on our values and goals. We can begin to focus on what really matters and let go of the things that don't. This can lead to a more peaceful and fulfilling life. Furthermore, accepting death calmly can help us focus on the present moment. When we are constantly worried about the future, we are unable to enjoy the present. We are always thinking about what could go wrong or what might happen next. This constant worry and anxiety can cause us a lot of stress and unhappiness. However, by learning to accept death calmly, we can shift our focus to the present. We realize that life is short and precious, and that we should make the most of every moment. This can lead to a more joyful and appreciative way of living. In conclusion, Stoicism offers a unique and powerful approach to death. Instead of fearing and avoiding death, Stoics encourage us to accept it calmly and serenely as a natural part of life. By doing so, we can free ourselves from the fear that holds us back and start living a life that is true to ourselves. Moreover, accepting death calmly can help us focus on the present moment and appreciate the preciousness of life. By following the steps outlined above, we can learn to accept death calmly and live a happier and more fulfilling life. Now, I want to ask you, what do you think about Stoicism's approach to death? Do you find it comforting, or do you think it is too negative? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked this video, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. As always, thanks for watching.